In this video, I want to talk about how you should adjust your speed as you're coming up to a turn so you can accommodate a pedestrian that might be coming up to use a crosswalk. So as we're coming up this road here, we're going to be going into the turn lane that the vehicle in front of us just went into. And right away we can see that there's someone walking towards that crosswalk. Now I don't know where they're going to go, if they're going to get to the intersection and take a right. What I'm thinking is, yes, I am faster than that pedestrian coming up here, but they're closer and they're maybe 5 steps away from that crosswalk area. So what I want to do is make sure that I don't just come in here and then quickly turn in case this person wants to continue crossing here. Now, most people would, hopefully you would hope that they would check, make sure it's safe to proceed. But the other thing we should think about is this crosswalk is an extension of this sidewalk here, right? So they don't have a pedestrian walk signal. So in theory, they would have the right of way here. So as I'm coming up here, I can, we can kind of see, like, for a moment, I slow down just in case she does want to cross here. But as soon as I see that, her feet are starting to position over to the right, I'm thinking, okay, I'm in the clear. So, sometimes with students, we'll be driving and they're like, Sean, I have to admit something to you. I'm like, what? They're like, I don't know why we do these shoulder checks. I'm like, well, it's because 99% of the time we're shoulder checking, no one's there. But that one time you look over, you're going to be happy that you did. And this is one of those scenarios where that shoulder check comes in handy. Because yes, even though we saw her or this person coming up and she wasn't in our blind spot as we pulled up, I can't read her, what she's about to do in the side mirror right now, unless I turn around and kind of check and see which way this person's about to cross. And if I saw that she's walking with intention towards this crosswalk, then I need to yield and not cut her off. So it's okay in this scenario to kind of like slow down and almost kind of like a semi-pause to make sure that that pedestrian is not actually going for that crosswalk. Now, if they weren't there, then that's where, as I approach, I can say, hey, it's clear. I'm going to do a shoulder check to the right 1 or 2 seconds before my turn, and I would make this turn a little bit quicker than what we're seeing in this video. So perhaps 15 kilometers an hour to make that maneuver. But the long story short is that as you're coming up, there's a pedestrian there. It's okay to slow it down, even almost like a rolling stop, if you will, to make sure that you are clear about what their intention is. Most people are pretty good about making it clear to drivers what they're planning on doing. In fact, I've seen a few pedestrians, and I really appreciate this. As they're coming up to an intersection, if they're planning on turning right, they kind of say, like, hey, they use hand gestures. They'll say, hey, I'm going to the right, or they'll even do the bike signal, which is pretty cool, so that as a driver, we have a little bit more info. I find a lot of pedestrians play this game of like, I'm not here, like, don't mind me. And it's like, yeah, well, I kind of do have to mind you because I'm operating a heavy piece of machinery and I need to make sure that you're safe, that I'm not going to cut you off. So as a pedestrian, pretending like I'm not here, or I'm going to pretend like you're not there, I get it. It's a bit socially awkward, but at the same time, like, hey, just kind of like looking over. If I'm walking towards a crosswalk and I turn over and I kind of shoulder check, I'm sending one more message to this vehicle that, hey, why am I shoulder checking? I'm a pedestrian, right? And it's because I want to make sure it's clear before I step into that crosswalk. But I see so many people, they don't even bother looking over their shoulder. I'm like, really? You're just going to assume that everybody on the road is sober and everybody on the road is sane, and you're going to trust your life in my hands? It's a social activity, so we do have to have a bit of faith or a bit of trust in the other people, but we trust, but we verify, right? So if you're ever coming up to a crosswalk to cross, and you should always check to see there's no one coming up to make the turn. And unfortunately, as a pedestrian, I've been cut off a few times where I'm thinking, yeah, we're good to go. And I look over and I'm like, wow, this person, they're actually going to go for it. And they make the turn. So whether you are a driver or whether you're a pedestrian, it doesn't matter. We still need to check and ensure that we're safe as well as other people on the road. So if you can, watch this replay 1 or 2 times, just kind of get a feel for how far back was this pedestrian from that crosswalk before they became something that we should be thinking about, right? So if this person, as I'm approaching this turn, is over here, right? Now I know within reason that I can get there, shoulder check right, and make sure that it's clear and make my turn. Sometimes we're in the car and the pedestrian will be like here and the student wants to go there and they wait for them. like this person's gonna take another 10 seconds to get here and your turn takes 2 seconds to make. So that is not considered cutting someone off. But if this person was now here and I'm coming up to make this turn, then yes, that's when you should yield to them. So driving is always about a balance, right? Not taking things to the extreme, not trying to make a turn too quick because you missed an advanced turn signal, not trying to make this turn quick because I'm trying to cut off the pedestrian, but also not going to the other side of the spectrum and just playing it so safe where it becomes confusing to other people as well, right? So imagine if they're here and now you're stopping there. What is the car behind you starting to think? Like, why are you stopped, right? And so I had a student, this was a few years back in Vancouver, and they went on the road test and they were just playing it way too safe, right? Like the pedestrian would be over here and they would get there and they're like, nope, not gonna turn. There's a pedestrian there, right? And so they came back at the end of the test and the examiner was livid. They're like, why is this student being so cautious? Like we can't have this on the road. And I was like, yeah, this is something that we're working on, right? And you know, they didn't fail the road test, like they kind of barely met the minimum standard, but you can see that examiner is not, they don't want you to play it so safe where now it's becoming confusing to other people on the road. So when it makes sense, use your common sense. When it makes sense to stop there, stop, check to see if they're actually going to cross. But if they're this far back, then don't hesitate, shoulder check right in advance and make the turn. So I'll see you in the next one.